Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being here in Fargo. I know that you had a chance to tour our downtown, got to see a little bit of our downtown, and you obviously have worked a lot to build vibrant downtowns in Kalamazoo as well. Initial thoughts in regards to feedback and input on things that we could do to continue to build the art and vibrancy of the downtown in Fargo. Just an initial feedback and thoughts on what you've seen so far.
Well, initial feedback when we arrived is we thought you're doing a pretty good job already. There's a lot of good art around town. Let's see. Again, if I kind of go back to the Park Trades building, what it has done for Kalamazoo is it is kind of a large enough one-stop place for art that it's created a community within the building itself that kind of spills out into the downtown. It's again by default kind of become an incubator because you have the artists and the students and the professors that are in the building, and the small businesses, barber shops and whatnot. I mean, they all kind of feed on each other and they help each other, so it's become a very social place as well. Which I think helps smaller individual artists that are trying to grow and trying to figure out what to do and how to continue to do their art. It gives them people to talk to on second.
So how long have you owned the Park Trade Center building, and what was your interest in purchasing this building with this specific art piece? I know Barb was an influence in that.
I know, yeah, she wanted me to buy it, so. And I looked at it and thought, this is a cool building. I mean, it's a building that we have taken other similar buildings and turned them into office buildings and restaurants and whatnot. It's not what we want to do with this building. It's just, it's too special on its own. What was the first part of your question?
How long have you owned it?
Oh, we've only owned it for about 5 years.
Okay.
So, again, it's been around for 35 years, but it was very disconnected from the downtown, kind of in a rough area, and obviously wasn't working because it fell into receivership. Gave us the opportunity.
Last night at dinner, we talked about the building of culture and how you have a building, but then within the building, the art and the events that take place help create the culture. And some of the events that are taking place on Friday, every Friday helps create some of that culture. Can you talk a little bit more about the events that have helped curate this culture of art within Kalamazoo?
So Art Hop is probably a big one. First Friday of every month, they have Art Hop. So the building is open for Art Hop, and 70 to 80% of the artists are open at that time. They have, everybody's got wine and cheese or beer hidden in the corner or something, so it's quite an event to go to. And so that's the one thing, and then it's open anytime, really. You have access to it, yes. And Barb's in the building, so.
And aside from the Park Trades building, all of downtown Kalamazoo participates in Art Hop. We actually bus to specific neighborhoods. The retailers host artists. There's not just art being displayed, there's hands-on workshops, there's food, there's dance. Kalamazoo itself hosts 22 festivals downtown annually. There's just a big desire to create interest in the downtown area after 5 o'clock, so we're alive after 5. I think that many of the large employers also participate in the art hops and hold their spaces open. We have hospitals, universities downtown. The university not only holds classes in the Park Trades building, but they have their fellows come and work there for months at a time.
I'm glad you brought up the universities because that came up in our previous conversations, is this collaboration with the universities and the impact the youth has. Can you talk a little bit more about that partnership with the universities and the impact that they have both downtown, the work they're doing. I think there was a culinary school that's downtown. Can you talk a little
Yes.
bit more about that?
So one of the community colleges recently opened a culinary school downtown, and they're actually using that to educate people on food and sustainability, and actually providing food to the hospital downtown. And we have a large hospital downtown that's continued to expand. I think it employs 4,000 people in the downtown. The University of Western Ontario, or sorry, wrong country. Western Michigan University. Western University in London, Kalamazoo, but Western Michigan University opened their medical school downtown, and that was a $100 million development in the downtown. And again, KBCC has classes downtown, and they also have the Kalamazoo Valley Museum downtown as well. And we're working with them right now on another property that we've recently picked up, which is the original Gibson guitar factory in Kalamazoo, which also fell into disrepair. And we're working with Kalamazoo Valley Community College to do a museum of stringed instruments in that building as well. And again, it is on the, again, we're 3 or 4 blocks beyond the main downtown core area, and not the best neighborhood, old industrial area. But our experience has been, every time we do that, everything in between fills in over 5 or 6 years.
One of the things that is evident is as these, whether it's the culinary school or the arts building, the Park Trade Center, it's definitely driving some economic impact, because you talked about the number of people that come out on Friday nights. Can you talk a little bit more about the direct economic benefits that these arts are bringing to Kalamazoo, or that these different events are, and specifically the downtown area and the work that the development effort is doing?
Okay, so we had a discussion, we had some developers with us last night, some local developers, so we did have the discussion about how arts helps and how you, oh, okay, there we go. And how we incorporate it into our buildings, into our lobbies. And it's just a lifestyle. It's employee retention. You're in a building you like that's exciting and colorful. You've got something in there that you want to go to work. You're happy to be there. We talked about whether you actually get more rent because you have a building with art in it. And I don't know that you get more rent. I don't think you do. But what I think happens is you've still got a competitive advantage over the other office space available because you have a space that is more unique. And you've got, yeah, and you've got just the employee retention. That's where they want to be. You can leave your office for lunch and you can go out, you can walk around, you can see art, you can go different places, as opposed to in the suburbs when you're out there. If you want to go for lunch, you hop in the car, you drive somewhere and you drive back to the office.
And aside from just the office space, having the arts downtown has made it easier to lease spaces because people are living downtown. And we have restaurants that weren't there 20 years ago, that our restaurant scene downtown is very vibrant now. After 5 o'clock, a lot of cities just are dead. Everybody goes home to the suburbs, and now we're building apartment buildings downtown. We're building more restaurants and even some retail space.
Good. I'm going to open it up to the audience here and see if there's any questions from the group.
I know this isn't your niche perhaps, but what can you say about the role the performing arts play in Kalamazoo? And is that an element of downtown as well?
That is an element of downtown, and it's been well established in Kalamazoo, performing arts. We're blessed to have some very wealthy philanthropic families locally that have supported those, and it is vibrant. Specifically.
We have the Civic Theater. We have another high school run theater downtown. Miller Auditorium is run by Western Michigan University. That is not directly downtown, but it's less than a mile from downtown. And the Kalamazoo Symphony is currently talking with Jeff about rehabbing our old state theater to actually perform downtown as their home base.
And we're adding a performance venue to the old Gibson Guitar Factory, which the university is going to be involved in as well.
What drives Kalamazoo? What are the top 3-4 manufacturers, businesses? Is it the college? What drives Kalamazoo?
So we have education, healthcare. Pfizer has their largest production facility in Portage, which Kalamazoo, Portage, you drive one to the next, it's, you don't know, you've changed towns. And Stryker Medical Equipment are the major employers.
And are you Michigan or Michigan State fans?
No comment.
State.
Start that one.
That will alienate half the room.
What role does agribusiness play in the Kalamazoo area?
So ag in the Kalamazoo area. I don't know, I can't really speak to that much. There's a lot of corn around there though. But I don't know, what can you?
It's probably not so much in Kalamazoo, but the outlying areas are full of orchards.
Yeah, not in Kalamazoo. As you get closer to Lake Michigan, you've got a lot of fruit and orchards. Again, a lot of corn to the south. But I don't know much about the ag business. Yes.
With the development of downtown Kalamazoo, is it left up to individual developers to determine what they'd like to do? Is there a coordinated collaboration where you're looking at some kind of long-range plan so you achieve a common goal downtown?
No, yes. Well, so a few things. There are probably 4 developers that focus on the downtown, so a lot is driven by the developers themselves. The city sometimes gets in their own way to some degree. And where we had a city commission that was primarily business owners 20 years ago, it's primarily educators right now, and their focus is a little different, less on development and more on social programs right now. So a lot of it is driven, I think, by the individuals, although the city's good, I mean, they're good to work with, but from a developer's point of view, we really don't want them to lead it. We're working now with both the city and a private group to do an 8,000 seat arena downtown we're working on. So the land's been assembled for it. And surprisingly, it will be a block from the Park Trades building if it happens. So it's been a kind of fits and starts with the development in Kalamazoo.
Can you talk a little bit more about the residential development side? Here in Fargo, we came from a time in downtown when there was a lot of housing for lower income, and now there's been quite a bit of development on the higher income side, but the retail, everything really depends on that middle income group, and we struggle with that, and the developers aren't quite, quite as interested probably. We've got a lot of apartments, but the apartments they're on the higher end. Can you talk a little bit about the residential development?
So in Kalamazoo, the residential was primarily in the suburbs. There's very little housing in the downtown. I think there are about 600 units in the downtown, so it's very small. There is virtually no vacancy, so if you want to live downtown, you can't find anything. Currently, we have about 400 units under construction downtown, so we're hoping that's going to change. Most of those are market rate apartments, and that's really a function of making the numbers work right now. And with the construction costs where they're at, it's hard to do affordable housing. We are working with a couple of developers to put some affordable housing in, but they're all dependent on tax credits and different programs that take a lot of time to pull together. Ultimately, we'd like a mix of all of it.
If I could do a follow-up question, so do you have, a developer or a group of developers that are, have more expertise in those tax credits, the, you know,
Yes.
to help support that kind of development?
Yes, we have a couple of developers now working on those, and they just take a long time to get, and we're working with LISC, which is a national organization which helps support some of the low-income housing. So we're working on putting that together, and then there are a lot of incentives that go along with our housing, both from the state of Michigan and local programs such as tax increment financing. And what the city is trying to promote is that if you're doing a 100-unit development, that 10 of those units be affordable as part of getting your incentives.
So in addition to Kalamazoo and now maybe Fargo, what are some other downtowns and communities that you draw inspiration from when you're looking at developing your own community?
Well, we travel around a lot, so we look at a lot of different communities. So to pick one or a handful, it's hard to do, but places like Asheville and Nashville and Santa Fe, and we recently saw the Wyndham Walls in Miami. No, Wyman Walls. Anyway, in Miami. So I grew up, my father's an artist, my wife's an artist, so I just kind of see that stuff wherever I go. I like to feel that even the architectural, the work we do to old buildings is also art. So I think our art is very personal, and you might do something that you really love, but the person next to you doesn't like it. I was telling somebody earlier that I've got a whole bunch of art at home that Barb says I have to keep in my garage. I think it's cool. So I think it's just, the more you travel, the more you see, and the more inspiration you have.
Speaking of artists, I'm gonna build off of that question. What do you feel is the greatest support someone can provide an artist? And maybe this is a question to start with Barb, and yeah, so there's, you know, we have amazing artists from all different, whether it's performing arts or culinary artists or painters or writers. And what is the greatest type of support that someone in the community can provide an artist?
Purchase their art, go to their events. That's the biggest support, so that they can keep doing what they're doing. But also positive feedback and creating spaces where the arts are welcome and where they can afford to do art in the downtown area. I think that to be able to afford a space where there's other artists lends itself not only to the artist but to the community.
No, I think that's it. It's the space and the community.
Another question from an artist perspective. Barb, from your perspective as an artist, going back to the building, why is building like the Park Trade Center so important? What is the purposes it's serving for you as an individual artist and the creative class and for the rest of the community?
First, to be able to have a space outside your home for an artist is amazing. To be able to have a place that you go to work, I just think it lends more professionalism to any aspect of the arts. Second, to be in a building that is all artists and creatives and startups. It just has an energetic atmosphere and a creative atmosphere that each of us work together and feed off of each other's ideas in a way that you just wouldn't get if you were an artist in an office building. For the community, I think our art spills over. Everyone knows about the Park Trade Center. I took classes there 30 years ago. And whether it's it was hot yoga when that was not popular because there was no air conditioning. But it's a safe place for our entire community, people outside our community to come and try things. And what's happened from that is if a building needs art, we do have an art institute, but we also have the Park Trades building. They can come to our building, they work with the different artists and artisans. We've had blacksmiths do signs, we've had our cabinet makers put in interiors. Instead of only working with professional interior designers, a lot of our local, even home builders will come in and work with an artist to help stage a home or to decorate an office or to provide art for a lobby or an event. And I just think the synergy of having that space there has lent so much to Kalamazoo's creativity level.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. You know, my husband was a coach for many years, and he'll always say success breeds success. You'll see these dynasties within sports schools. You'll see it's why they create tech parks. Innovation breeds innovation. It's why they create medical parks, because of the innovation from the medical industry. And it's why creativity would breed creativity. When you have all of the creativity within a space, it would help foster creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good. More questions from the group? Yeah, Hector?
So knowing that having affordable space for artists is necessary, I'm assuming that the artists that are in the Park Trade building are not at market rents, or that there's something below market rents. How, were there programs or incentives? How are you able to do a building of that scale and offer so much space that's at below market rents available to help support the arts? Knowing that it was in receivership might be part of the answer for that. You got it, but how are you able to keep those costs low and keep that cash flow?
Well, the reality is we bought it out of receivership, which helped. And it's really a matter of the basis that you get the building for, and you can't, like I said, the building is pretty rustic. The bathrooms are probably 50 years old. It's heated by a boiler that's 50 years old. Single pane windows. It's not a pretty building, the building itself, but that almost lends itself to what's going on inside of it. But there is no magic, and we didn't get any incentives, and it's just a matter of, boy, I'd like to put new windows in, I'd like to put proper HVAC system in, but if I do, the artists aren't going to be able to afford it. So we kind of have to keep it the way it is. We keep it maintained.
Can I add to that, Jeff? When we were talking to Elizabeth when she took us on the tour, one of the things that impressed me was she said that she had kind of full flexibility to be able to work with the artists. So kind of as people get more successful and need more space and then can afford to pay a little bit more, rents kind of moved around a little bit. And I was stunned that she was able to do that. And that to me seems really smart, because what you're doing is grooming these people to go up a ladder without punishing them from the start.
Right, and in a lot of cases, they keep going up the ladder until they leave the building, and they get into another space once they can afford it.
One of the things that some of the tenants have done and some of the universities have done is they've rented a space and then they sublet to a number of different artists. So the individual artist might have room for an easel and a tray for their paints, and that's it until they become more successful and can move up and rent their own space.
Right, and the other thing is, we do have a full-time property manager in there, Liz, and she used to manage a bar. So she's used to dealing with all kinds of different people, and she's just been great with all of the artists that like her. She's there to help them. She's kind of there to serve them, and helps promote them and helps promote the building. And it's very hands-on.
I wanted to ask know much about what conditions were in place when the building originally became artist space, back before you bought it. I'm just really fascinated by how it went from being a manufacturing space to being an art space. And was there something going on in the city that sort of fostered that vision, or was it a particular benefactor who said this was a good idea, or what was it what were the conditions that were in place that made Kalamazoo decide that was a good idea to begin with, even though it maybe didn't work financially for a while?
Right, so I don't know the answer to that because I wasn't in Kalamazoo when this building opened. I think it opened in the early 80s, and I didn't show up till the late 80s. I do know if you go way back, it was called the Sanoax building, and they made wax paper there. So it was an old industrial building. And then you might know more.
I don't know about how it started, but I do remember the experience of being there 35 years ago, and it was not full of artists at the time. There were a lot of empty spaces that were actually rent by the hour. So you could go in, rent a space, and then have your class and leave, and that was on the build up of the building. I think what finally made it more successful was getting some big tenants in there. We have a beautiful cabinet maker. I mean, he is well renowned in Southwest Michigan as a cabinet artisan, and he has his full workshop in there. And same thing with the glass blowing. We have Kalamazoo Glass Blowing, and they have artists from all over the world come in there and work for a summer, and they do all sorts of demonstrations and classes and sell. So I think it became more successful with the couple key tenants.
I do have some pictures, I'll put them up here afterwards. I'm sorry I don't have them on my computer.
Do you have a downtown business association, or is there an arts organization that's helped organize the art hop, or how does that take place?
Yes,
Who
that
markets it and who leads it and all that?
Yeah, the art hop is done by a downtown organization, which is the Art Council. And then we have Kalamazoo Institute of Arts downtown as well. And yeah, we have a downtown development authority which kind of oversees some of these things as well.
From your perspective as a developer, does that benefit to the things you're trying to do? I mean, do you work in concert with each other, or how does that relationship work?
Yes, everybody does work together. It is a collaborative effort in Kalamazoo. Everybody works together and they're constantly looking for more and better ways to continue to bring people to the downtown.
And Dana did remind us that our Arts Council is largely funded by philanthropy. We have apparently double the budget that your Arts Council does, and we're the same size community, and that is funded by donation.
I'd like to ask how diverse or inclusive your projects are. Are there any special efforts to be more inclusive, or is it even a concern? Or does it happen organically that you would have like artists from, let's say, different socioeconomic or LGBTQI plus community, or even like different countries? How inclusive?
I mean, it is very, very diverse. I mean, we've got people in there from all walks of life.
Our community is a lot more diverse than your community here. And I think in the Park Trades building, it happens very organically. We've also, just from time to time, as a space is available and not rented, we do have a waiting list now, but there's been periods where we haven't. We have donated space for a month or a couple of months so that we can truly help the people that are starting a business or starting something from scratch. And that's very important to both of us, to be able to bring up young entrepreneurs and artists and people within our community that will fall in love with our community like we have, and hopefully stay there and become successful.
So, can I ask a quick follow-up question? How important would it make sure that we are, featuring all those facets of arts right now?
So I think in Kalamazoo, we're more diverse because our population is more diverse. And if you have less diversity within your population, you may have to be a little more deliberate to make that happen.
Our universities also play a huge part in that. We have international students. We've always had international students there. There's international festivals that the universities put on that overflow into the community, and I think that the universities work very closely with our community to make sure that we have diversification in events also.
And a lot of the festivals we have throughout the summer are very diverse in makeup.
Speaking of the festivals that you hold, can you give a few examples of the types of festivals that are held throughout the year?
Well, mostly music oriented, but we do have like a Rib Fest and an Island Fest and a Greek Fest and Gay Pride and different kinds of music, electronic music, the blues, so all wide diversity of different festivals. And Kalamazoo is also home to the United Kennel Club, which is the second largest dog registry in the world. We have a huge dog show every June. Yes.
Jeff, being married to an artist must have helped you think outside the box. So on some of your projects, how have you reached into Barb's perspective, and how has she helped you think outside of the box?
Well, more than once, I'll bring a set of plans home, floor plans, and we'll start to work with and different designs for the flooring and different elements for the building. And I'll also show her drawings, and she tells me they're totally wrong, we gotta change them. So, yeah, it's what we do. Again, my father was an artist, so I've kind of grown up around it.
Yes.
And when we travel, like here, we're all looking at the same things. We're taking pictures, we're looking at buildings, we're looking at art.
It's that intermixing, like we talked about at the beginning, that intermixing of art and aesthetic beauty in the building and bringing it all together.
So we've been doing it for 30 years, so it's just kind of what we do.
Very good. Is there one more question from the audience?
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment. We have good friends who live in Detroit, Michigan. We were on speakerphone with them last night after our dinner, and I had said, Tamushi was a very well off doctor, and I mentioned that I was having dinner with him too. And he said, but from Kalamazoo, what are they doing? They're just crushing it. All of Michigan is talking about it. So just so you know, you've got a great reputation in Michigan as far as making an impact and really changing your city, because I know Detroit's struggled and they're still working on it, but you've got a really sterling reputation within your state community, so well done.
Oh, thank you, that's nice to hear. Detroit's pretty crushing it right now too.
I think we have one more question right here.
Yeah. What are some sustainability efforts that is going into a lot of projects in Kalamazoo, and how do the arts represent sustainability as well, and how do you see that happening?
Okay, so when I think sustainability, I think mechanical systems and green roofs and LEED certified buildings and the like. How art works into sustainability. I mean, I think art is, you have art. If you've got art in a building, you're not gonna wanna take it out. I mean, once it's there, and people come to expect it, and they wanna go there because they see it, even if you're changing your art up. But it's something that I think once you start doing it, you continue to do it. It just becomes part of the fabric of the building.
Also, our artists work a lot with the local farms and markets, and they'll be involved with the marketing pieces. They'll hold contests for the artists to come up with the poster for such and such an event, or I'm thinking Food Dance. It's one of my favorite restaurants, and they work with a lot of local farms for what is farm to table eating there, and all of their advertising is done through local artists, and just bringing that whole collaborative together. Okay, and I mean, there's even things now like Go Yoga, okay, around our area, very close to downtown. So sustainability is something that everybody's looking at, and I think artists are very in tune to sustainability, and I think by mixing the art community with the business community, it's just growing that.
So one final question for you. We've asked this to all of our guest speakers. What is your recommendation to our group here that we can continue to do to help build a vibrant community in the Fargo that maybe you've done in Kalamazoo or that you've seen now being here in Fargo? What's your one recommendation to us?
Well, for sure, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, your downtown is very impressive. And I think just to continue to encourage the artists, and I know and encourage the developers, because I think art is an individual thing, and if you've got developers that are thinking about incorporating art into the public spaces, into their buildings, that will continue to grow from there. But I think it's individual. I don't think you can mandate something, and we talked about that a little bit last night. I think that's hard to do because art is so individual, and I think it has to come, and we talked again about the development, I think it's got to come from the developers, from the building owners, to incorporate that into their buildings and into their plans.
And I would say the same, love on your developers, because lots of times they'll hear like the culture per square foot scares a developer, because they're thinking, oh my gosh, that's somebody, is wanting us to spend way more money on this deal that's already tight. So love on your developers. I think if somebody's developing in your community, they already love your community. They want to be here, and to know that the community supports them and gets behind them doing something with the arts is important. And then the other thing I would say is spend some time with Dana. Oh my gosh, that woman has more ideas for your community, and to sit at a table with 4 developers, it took our community a long time, and people like that to come together at a single table and discuss what moving forward for our community can look like. What can we do to draw people here? And Dana is facilitating that already and doing a great job. So if you haven't spent time sitting down with her, please do.
Wow, thanks.
Thank you. Can we give another round of applause?
Wow, thank you. All right. Okay. So this kind of concludes this totally concludes the 3-part breakfast series. And I think that the work is just beginning now. So it would be a shame to have gathered you over these 3 months, to have watched winter move to spring, the flood come and go, all those things, and to just say, well, that was good, let's move on with our lives. I think really now it is on us to figure out what's next. Too often, I think we have conversations and people come in, we spend a lot of time with people from the outside coming in to do studies and all of that, because we love to do that in this community, and then nothing comes from it. I really want something to come from this. I hope that when I reach out to you and invite you to have follow-up conversations, or to vet ideas, or to come to the table with questions and thoughts of your own, that you will take me up on that. Otherwise, this is just done. And so great, we should all either move to Omaha or the Quad Cities or Kalamazoo, because they're already doing it. I would like us to be doing it. And we are doing things. So one of the things that I learned last night, or struck me last night at dinner, was the developers kept looking at me and saying, we're making baby steps. We are. We're doing little things. And I know that what they were responding to is the fact that if you read anything I write, I'm running 500,000 miles on the wheel, and probably people think what I'm saying to everyone else is, could you please catch up? So it was a really important reminder to me that A, not the only person running on the wheel, we're all running on our wheel. We're all working at a fast pace, the fastest pace we can. But I'm gonna push on that a little bit and say, let's stop being a community that says we're taking baby steps. Let's take grown-up steps. Or let's take baby steps and own that they're moving us towards something that's actually taking us somewhere. Because baby steps might just be this, well, I'm not going anywhere. I want us to go somewhere. So I'm gonna work to sound a little more patient in my writing, so look for that. And I'm gonna hope that as a community, we embrace that we are changing, because it's a really good thing. We wouldn't have had these breakfasts 5 years ago. We might not have had these breakfasts 2 years ago. So we're changing, and change is happening, and we're all here to witness it, and in most cases, we're here to actually make it happen. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate the work that you do around arts in your own way, with your own businesses, with your own boards, and the ways that we are all making Fargo-Moorhead a better community. First and foremost, I have gratitude for that. So thank you for all that you have done. Thanks for all that we're going to do. And I have 2 plugs because it's my microphone and it's the end of my event. Tomorrow is our 12-hour fundraiser. April Showers Bring May Flowers. Online, you can donate to theartspartnership.net/donate. Join us tomorrow night at APT. It's the last party of that space. We will be out of that space June 30th and into West Acres sometime this summer. But come from 6:30 to 8:30. It's a cash bar, free snacks, and the Meat Rabbits are playing. Who are the Meat Rabbits, you might wonder? They are the single weirdest group you will encounter. They will all have on plaid 1970s polyester pants, often Hawaiian shirts, and they're kind of a polka rock band. So if you are thinking that seems weird, it is, and it's super fun. So please join us at that. Please give tomorrow. These kinds of events only happen when the community supports the work that we're doing. So if you have it in you to do that, we would appreciate it. And second of all, please also join us June 11th for the State of the Arts, where I will wrap up these 3 breakfasts. We're bringing in Russ White, who is a board expert. He's going to talk about the value of business investing in board work. And we will celebrate the fact that this has been an amazing year for the arts. We'll give out almost $100,000 in grants. We'll give out Sanford Merit Awards. We'll give out other kinds of awards. We'll celebrate the community. Linda Boyd is being celebrated. And a number of other organizations and people, as are the Kilburn Group. I think that's the 2 in the room. So please get tickets for that. You'll see us promoting that. Thank you so much. Thanks again so much to Flint, to Microsoft, to Sandy, to my board, to my staff, and mostly to Jeff and Barb for coming. Have a fabulous day.